Good morning. Today we're covering Algebra 2 Lesson 6.4, and this is solving a quadratic equation by completing the square. Okay, and this lesson supports IXL Skill K10, which is on the same subject. Be sure to write up this lesson in your notes, as we've been doing it all the way through the semester. And make sure you put your header on it. To get full credit, you must have your header in just the way I have shown it to you here, and you must upload it to me by 11:59 p.m. Saturday. Okay, so let's just talk about what we've been doing. We've been looking for the value of c. So if you remember, here's a trinomial. In a trinomial, the first term, the number that's assumed to be in front of x squared is 1 here. And so that's your a, and then the 11, which is in front of the b, the x, is your b, and then of course this is your c. This is going to be your c, whatever this number is. So we want to find out what c is. We need to do that when we're completing the square, and we're going to talk about that again. We did it before. And what we found out was that c equals whatever the value is in b. In this case, we'll talk about that in a moment. And we're going to divide that by 2. So b divided by 2, and we're going to square that, okay? And so in this case, b is 11, so that would be 11 divided by 2, and squared, you get 121 divided by 4. So rewriting this trinomial up here, you would write it as x squared plus 11x plus 121 over 4. And then of course you would be asked to factor that. This is your trinomial, and you were asked to factor that into 2 factors, and then you took whatever those, because they were the same, you took that factor and you squared it. Okay, so that's basically what you did before, and so this is going down memory lane, and of course it was in the immediately preceding video lesson, so you should be able to remember it, or you can go back and look. All right, so now we're going to go to the next step in this lesson. So we're going to solve by completing the square. So we're going to solve. So in other words, solve for x. Okay, for x when y is 0 by completing the square. So I'm going to say for x when y equals 0. Right? And your answers should be integers. Now, what are integers? So integers are numbers like all your positive, negative numbers. So negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0 includes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those are all integers, and so they're all the ones on the number line, positive and negative. And so your answers should be integers, reduced fractions, or decimals rounded to the nearest hundredth. That would be 2 spaces to the right of the decimal point. All right, so let's look at our very first problem. And our very first problem is x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So what we're going to do is, first, I'm going to just write down the procedure that you're going to be doing to do this, okay? And so this starts with what we did last time around. So let's go through the procedure. So a little outline for you here, okay? So first of all, we're going to, now this is something we haven't done before, but we're going to divide everything by a. By a. So whatever your a is, you're going to divide everything by it. Now here, of course, your a is 1. So, you know, it's not going to change. 1 divided by 1 is 1x squared. This is, if you divided this by 1, you would still have 6x. 6x divided by 1 is 6x. 8 divided by 1 is 8, and so on. So, but this is going to be necessary where you have some number other than 1 in the first term. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Second thing you're going to do is isolate the x squared term. The third thing you're going to do is leave a blank space, and I'll show you where. Leave a blank space, really 2 blank spaces, but we'll show you. And that's going to be for the c value, which comes to that's the next thing. So find the c value, and we're going to add to both sides. And then we're going to factor the trinomial. And then we're going to use the square root method to solve. Okay, so there you've got all of the procedure that you're going to do. Now, the first one you haven't done yet. You haven't done that before, but we're going to hit that today. Isolating the x squared term, you haven't done that yet, but you've done it, at least you haven't done it with completing the square, but you've done it many times when you've been simplifying and solving equations for x. Leaving a blank space is new. Finding the c, well, we did that last time. Factoring the trinomial, we did that last time. Using the square root method to solve, we did that last time. So really, it's just one, let's use red, it's just 1 and 2 and 3. Those are the things that are new. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do this over here on the far side. So I'm going to rewrite this. And what I'm going to do now, divide everything by 1. We don't need to do that, so we can ignore that first step. But to isolate the x squared term, what we have to start out by doing is we've got to move the 8 over here to the other side. And we're going to leave a spot there. Okay? So that's the leave a blank space thing that we're talking about. So let's rewrite the trinomial with the space. So we're going to have x squared plus 6x plus, and then we're going to put a little space in here. Okay? Plus, and then that equals, and then it's going to equal, now here, if we moved this, we had to subtract -8 from both sides. So we do that, this is going to be -8, right? -8 plus, and then we're going to have another space. Okay? That's what we're going to do. All right, now we need to find the c, which we're going to use to fill the spaces in with. So let's use red. C equals b over 2 squared, we said. So in this case, what is b? This is the b, this is the a, right? This is the b, this is the, well, it's not the c because we were changing it, so we're not going to worry about that. So the b is 6, so we're going to state that equals 6 over 2 squared, right? 6 divided by 2 is 3, so we have 3 squared, which equals 9. So that's what C is. So I'm going to put that into these two spaces. Put a 9 here. I'm going to put a 9 here. Okay? Now that I've done that, I'm going to rewrite this. So I've got, let's see, x squared plus 6x and plus the 9 now. And that equals negative 8 plus 9. Right? And so we can clean this up and simplify it. Negative 8 plus 9 is 1. So I'm going to rewrite this as x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 1. All right, so now I want to factor the trinomial. So factoring the trinomial, I double bubble, and that's going to equal 1, so I'll just put that over there. Now x squared is x times x, right? Now what do we put here into the second term? What times what equals 9, that when added together equals 6. Oh, it's 3. Remember, it's this number up here. It's the 3, so it's positive 3. All right, so we've got x plus 3 times x plus 3 equals 1. So we can rewrite now the two parentheses, the two bubbles, we can write that as x plus 3 squared, and that equals 1. All right, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to take the square root of both sides of these. So I'm going to do that. Square root of equals the square root of. So this is x plus 3 squared equals, then it's plus or minus the square root of 1. Okay? Now, when you take the square root of x plus 3 squared, the squared and the radical sign cancel out each other. So you rewrite this as x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 1. And what is the square root of 1? Well, isn't the square root of 1 just 1? Because 1 times 1 is 1. So x plus 3 is plus or minus 1. So now you're going to rewrite this. You're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So you're going to end up with x equals, this goes away, negative 3 plus or minus 1. Now, let's just write this up here because we've got space for it. So the way that IXL would want you to show this is x equals, what's negative 3 plus 1? That's negative 2. What is negative 3 minus 1? Well, that's negative 4. So, negative 4. So that would be the answer that you would put into IXL. Negative 2, negative 4. Okay? All right, so let's do the same thing over here on the far side. Same exact process. So we've got, in this case, the negative 13 is over here right already, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to go ahead and just rewrite our equation with the blanks. So let's see, x squared minus 4x plus blank equals, and we'll put the plus or minus in. Oh yeah, let's leave it out. Equals, let me just wipe that out a little bit, and we'll move it over. Equals, negative 13 plus another blank. Okay. All right. Now we're going to do our C. So C equals, our second term is negative, or B that is. Our B is negative 4. So negative 4 over 2 squared, right? So what's negative 4 divided by 2? Negative 2 squared, which equals 4, right? So our C is 4. So we go ahead and put that in here, and we put that in here. So we're going to rewrite this as x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals, and then what is negative 13 plus 4? Looks like negative 9. Okay. Get my equal sign here, kind of a little neater. Okay, so now we have our trinomial. We want to factor. So we're going to factor again. And so again, that equals negative 9. So we're going to have x times x, and then our second term, what times what equals 4, that when added together is negative 4. Well, it's negative 2, and here it is up here. You can always find it up here. It's what the b over 2 is. It's always the b over 2, okay? So negative 2. And then, of course, this is x minus 2 times x minus 2, or x minus 2 squared, and that equals negative 9. Now we're going to take the square root, and so I'm just going to put this together. I'm going to do the square root of this and the square root of this, and now we have plus or minus. So plus or minus the square root of negative 9. So the square root again of x minus 2 squared is x minus 2. We rewrite that as x minus 2 equals plus or minus. Now what is square root of negative 9? Well, isn't that square root of negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times square root of 9. And that's really, this is I, and this is 3. So this is really, square root of 9 is 3, so 3i. So plus or minus 3i, right? So now finishing this, we add 2 to both sides, and we get x equals 2 plus 3i, and 2 minus 3i. So these are two imaginary solutions. This would be the correct answer again using IXL. Two imaginary solutions, over here two real solutions. And two imaginary solutions. So you see we're putting this all together. That's what we're doing. We're just taking what we've been learning in this particular, and we're putting it all together at this particular time. Okay? Make sure everybody got that and could see it all. Okay. Now we're going to do, let's see, we're going to do 2x squared minus 4x equals 6. So in this particular case, you do have a 2 up here. So what we're going to do is divide, because we said in our previous slide here that the first thing we would do is divide everything by a if we have a number that isn't 1. So this is your a, right? So we want to divide by that. This is your b. And so divide by 2, divide by 2, and divide by 2. Everything has to be divided by 2. So when you do that, of course, the 2 divided by 2 cancels. You get x squared, I'll put it over here, x squared And negative 4 divided by 2 is minus 2 or negative 2x. And that equals 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay. So now that you've got that, you're going to go ahead and put in your spaces. You want that third space. So I'm going to rewrite this as x squared minus 2x plus a space equals 3 plus that same space where you're going to put the c in, run both of those. So we got to find what c is. So let's do the c. C is going to be, again, this is our, now we're going to use the negative 2. This has become our b now. This is now our b. Okay, so when you divide by 2, b is really negative 4 divided by 2 for this. So c is negative 2 divided by 2 again, because that's what the little formula requires, squared. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, and it's squared. Negative 1 squared is 1. So we're going to put a 1 into each of these spaces. Okay? All right. So now we're going to go ahead and do the old double bubble and factor. So we've got x and x, and this is all going to equal, well, let's see, what is 3 plus 1? 3 plus 1 is 4. And so what am I going to put in? Well, what's our b? We said that our b is 1. I'm sorry, not our b. Our c is 1, okay? But remember that we're using the b over 2 squared, b over 2 only to come up with the second term, so this would be it. Now, we can check ourselves. So negative 1 is what we want, right? What times what equals positive 1, right? Positive 1. That when added together is negative 2. Well, that's negative 1 and negative 1, okay? So you can either check it that way, or you can just use, again, what b over 2 is. B over 2 is negative 1. And so then we can rewrite this as x minus 1 squared equals 4. Right? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do the square root of x minus 1 squared. So we're going to take the square root of that, and that's going to equal the square root of, well, this is plus or minus, so we're going to do plus or minus the square root of 4. Right? Okay, so again, anything squared that has a radical sign, those two cancel each other out, so you're left with x minus 1 equals, and in this case, plus or minus the square root of 4. Well, square root of 4 is 2, so plus or minus 2. So just add 1 to both sides, and you get x equals plus or minus 2 plus 1. All right, well, what is that? So x equals, well, let's see, 2 plus 1 is 3. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So that would be our answer for this particular problem. So you'll notice, again, we went through the same process and we ended up with two real numbers. Okay? All right. Last one. So got a negative 2 here. We're going to have to divide by negative 2 on all of these. So let's do that. Negative 2, negative 2, negative 2. One moment. Yes, what could I do for you? Hold on. Yeah, one moment. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye now. Okay, so sorry about that. I had a student ask me a question. So negative 2 divided by 2, so that's going to be 1r squared. So we're going to write this as r squared. Put this over here, r squared. And then let's see, 34 divided by negative 2, that's going to be a negative number, negative 17. Negative 17r. And let's see here. And then we're going to leave a space. Well, let's just do that secondarily. Minus 17r. Well, what's negative 30? We got to do this. Yeah, let's leave a space. So plus something, save ourselves some time, equals, and then what is 24 divided by negative 2? That is negative 12. Okay, plus something. Okay, so now we need to know what the something is. The something is your c. So c is going to be negative 17, right? Negative 17 divided by 2 squared. Well, negative 17 divided by 2, we could set up a decimal for that. Probably would be the best thing because it's going to come up with an ugly fraction. Let's just see what the ugly fraction is. So let's just say that negative 17 squared. Clear it. So let me go back here and make sure I can see this. Yes. So negative 17 divided by 2. And then we're going to square that. So that answer, I'm just going to do this like I'm doing arithmetic. So that answer now squared. So that's 72.25. So I just turned this all into a decimal, 72.25. Okay. All right. So that's what C is. So let's just rewrite this. So where'd my other pen go? Here we go. So we've got r squared minus 17r plus 72.25 equals negative 12 plus 72.25. Okay, so now we want to factor this. So that's kind of ugly, but remember it's negative 17 over 2. So we can figure out what negative 17 over 2 was. I think we already did. Didn't we say that that was negative 8.5? So we can set this up. First, we could set it up as R and R, and then what multiplied together is 72.25. That when added together is negative 17. Well, let's go back to this. It's got to be the b over 2. So we could use negative 17 over 2, but I think we're going to use what that is, the negative 8.5, which is right over here, because that's what negative 17 divided by 2 is. So in decimal form, we want r minus 8.5 and r minus 8.5. And then let's see, negative 12 plus 72.25. So that's this previous answer, minus 12. So minus 12. We get 60.25. Okay, so 60.25. Okay, so you can use decimals, you can use fractions, whichever is easier. And this one, it's so messy that it's just better to probably use decimals. You will probably not get an exact answer, but it'll be close. Okay, so this is r minus 8.5 times r minus 8.5. We can change that to r minus 8.5 squared equals 60.25. All right, so we can take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of this and the square root of this. And so we're going to end up with, of course, this is going to, the square and the radical are going to cancel. So I've got r minus 8.5 over here on the left. And that's going to equal, and remember this is plus or minus 60, square root of 60.25. So what is the square root of 60.25? So I'm going to have to find out what that is. 60.25. So let's take the square root. I'm going to have to just start over with this one. So I'll hit the square root sign here. There it is. So I got to hit second square root, and I'll put in 60.25. Enter, and I get this long number. Now this is a long decimal, so we're going to have to round this. I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredth. That means I'm going to go to the second number to the right of the decimal point, and rounding the next number after that is a 2 that's below the 5. So this is going to be 7.76, I think. 7.76. And all right, so plus or minus, let's write it this way, 7.76. All right. So now let's add 8.5 to both sides. And so what you're going to get is this canceling. So your R is going to equal, so 7.76 plus 8.5. So we already have this, so plus 8.5, you get 16.26, it looks like. Okay, 6.26. Would we agree? Yes. So 16.26. Now this is approximate, so I'm going to use a wavy, this is kind of a wavy line here. All right, so now got to remember we've got plus or minus. We just added these two together. So we start out, when we added it together, we got plus 16.26. So 16.26, and then the second one we have to subtract. So I got to go back in, and I got to take, let's see here. Let's do the 7.76. So this would be negative 7.76, 7.76 plus 8.5. And so we get 0.74, okay? 0.74. All right, so those are our answers. That's our answer. It's approximate. Now, if you aren't sure, check. We're going to do a check. How would we do that? So what we would do is, let's just take the second answer, 0.74. 0.74. We could use both of these. I would check both of them, but let's just, for the sake of it, let's take negative 2, and then our R is 0.74 times 0.74, and we want to square that. We want to add 34, because this is, now notice we're going back to the original numbers. 34, and then our R is again 0.74, and that equals, it should equal, if we're right, it should equal approximately 24, but it's not going to be exact, so let's find out. All right, so what I'm going to have to do here, now I'm going to do a long kind of algebraic problem in the calculator, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So basically what we need to do is sort of put parentheses around this term and this term, and do that in the calculator. So I'm going to do the outer parentheses. So here's my calculator, and let's get it down where you can see it. So I'm going to put in parentheses, okay, then -2, and then another parentheses times 0.74. 0.74. Now I want to square that, okay? So I'm just going to put the little caret for the squared and 2. I'm going to close that parentheses, and then I'm going to put this plus sign. So plus, and then another parentheses, and then 34 times 0.74. So that one I can do times 0.74, close the parentheses, and hit enter. And what do I get? 24.0648. That would round to 26.4. I'm sorry, 24.0648. That would round to 24.06 if you go to the nearest hundredth. And remember, that's really approximate. Okay? That's close enough to 24 to show you that. Let's go back down here. It's close enough to the 24 here to show you that you got this correct. And if you got that one correct, check this one, but it'll be correct if you've done all that. For purposes of this, we've got everything we need done. All right, so we have completed this, and we are done with this particular lesson. Have a great day.